Oops, sorry, we're recording. Thank you, Bernie. Any comments on the minutes?
No.
Seeing none, we have a motion to approve. Made by Peggy to second.
I wasn't there, so
Mike got there. That's good.
You thought you were.
I thought I was.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, minutes are in. All right, well, we start with tenant comments, and we just have Wendy with us today. Is that right?
You do, but I'm here to listen.
All right, and do you want to take a minute or anything, or is there anything on your mind, or?
Well, nothing in particular, but just wondering how management is thinking the CallMax is working. Just if they have any comments, or
I
are
can.
they happy?
Yeah, I mean, I think from our perspective, it's working well, especially with outgoing information. It's obviously significantly easier for us to get notices and information out to the residents via CallMax rather than hand walking around notices and putting them under every door every time we're going to do something. So for that perspective, I would say, yeah, it's working well for us. I'd be curious to know from a resident perspective how you think it is.
Well, I'm one that gets it by phone, so I know on my caller ID it's come as unknown or someplace in Georgia. So I don't know whether people that have, because I have a landline, I don't know whether people that would get this. I just don't know if there's been confusion anywhere else with, because sometimes people might have an app that says, I don't want to, it is unknown, I don't want to pick it up, or.
Yeah, well, the system.
I know at least what the phone number is, and the repeated message, which probably got a little crazy.
The system is set so that when a call goes out, it's supposed to show the call as coming from the office phone number. If that's not the case, then we can check that.
That's not the case.
I mean, at sometimes it has, but mostly the one we were getting at 9:02 just about every morning for 2 weeks was coming as unknown or Georgia or something, as opposed to But I don't know. Because I'm sure you have more people that are getting things text, and maybe that's okay. I just personally, I'm one of very few, I think, that has that's the way it's coming to me. So I just don't know whether other people have even they might not have known about it, but chances are if it's emailed, they have. But the parking seems to have been affected by that outgoing call, so that's probably very good. So that's my only curiosity. So if you like it, then there you go. But from my phone end, I was getting unknown or the same number, but from a town or a city or something in Georgia.
Okay,
So
we'll check that setting because there is a setting for that. So I'll check to see if it's shut off for some reason. If it is, I'll turn it back on again.
Yeah, and there was something else that in 2 messages, one from Amy, where part of the message, it said something about number 39. And then there was another call, and somewhere in the message it said number 39. So I don't know whether it just seems odd that would have been a robo interpretation of the voice that was, I don't know. And so that whatever that sentence was unintelligible to me, what that number 39 meant. So I don't know. That's it.
Yeah, I don't know about that particular one because I get them as well.
You get the calls as well?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. All right.
And I don't remember that particular number 39 thing, but
yeah,
I don't know. I don't think we heard any issues. So
yeah, it was in one of the message that was pertaining to um, the extermination people coming through,
Mhm.
and somewhere in that, I heard number 39, and then something later on I heard that same 39. So I didn't know if it's a number that's pressed to make certain things, or it was just weird.
Oh, no, it probably was the robot reading the email, and it just
Yeah.
came out funky when they read it.
Okay. Yeah. So so I know it was that one about the extermination thing, that I definitely heard that within the message. So if
Okay.
you had that again, you could see, but yeah, it might just be a fluke. But I did hear it twice in another message. So
Okay.
Right.
I think that's
Okay.
it for me, and the rest listening, I think.
All right, thank you, Wendy. All right, so moving right on to management.
Okay, so I will start. We submitted all the reports. I'll just touch quickly on the financials. You'll notice that the cash balances and the accounts payable numbers kind of look a little crazy in that cash balances dropped and accounts payables numbers went up. And the reason for that is that with the renewal, with the renewal of the insurance policies at the double rates, we had to make the down payments plus the first month payments. So it soaked up about 50,000 in cash to the insurance. So that's why the cash balances dropped precipitously from December to, through the month of January, because we had to make all those payments. And then the accounts payable numbers went up because at the same time that we made those payments, we accrued the cost of the insurance, and it will get paid down now on a monthly basis. So the accrual of that cost is what drove the accounts payable number up. So you take the actual cash that went out to pay the down payment in the first months, and that reduced the cash balance, and the accrual of the remaining insurance payments being added to the accounts payable is what increased that. So that's the shift in those numbers that you see, which is the most glaring thing on the financial statements that you'll see if you look at them closely. Aside from that, the rest of the financials have been operating kind of as usual, effectively at a break-even level. We did spend some extra money on appliances in the last couple of months, so those that use of cash has gone up a bit. But aside from that, things have been kind of business as usual. Hopefully that all makes sense. Any questions on it? All right. Okay. Also submitted is our status report. You can see there's a lot of move-ins. I'm going to let Amy and Anna talk about the status report, in particular the move-ins and where we are with them. Hoping that all these March 1st are still on track and we didn't get too goofed up with the storm yesterday. So Amy, you want to weigh in on some of that information?
I got hocus pocus on that. So one gentleman moved in today. I have previously 5H moved in earlier this month. And for February, she moved in, and then I had 111 moved in today. 123 moved in today. Then I have tomorrow 325 and 328 moving in. Due to the storm, the elderly lady did not have means to get traveling around. So she said she'll come tomorrow. And then the other young lady also didn't have means of getting around, so she was coming in tomorrow as well for 328 and 325. Those are our RAD units. But they're also going to be from the first of the month. We put it as still, I explained to them, and they were like, that's fine. Also, I have one young lady had reached out to us. She was a DSS client, and she had indicated that she was no longer interested. That something she's going through some type of a situation, and left it like that. She said that's what she emailed me.
That was for which unit?
213.
213, okay.
213, Alicia Serras. So 213, I found someone else, which is also my number 421, 414 applicant. I'm moving her up to 213 now. I'm switching that out, and I'll have another person coming for 414 on Monday. They're coming into interview for 414. Then I have 421. I spoke with them last week, the Cranston, Robert Cranston, and I spoke with them last week. They said they were coming today. I gave them the numbers and everything, and they no showed. So I had no show for today on that 421.
Now,
And
did they
then,
say that they were gonna take the unit?
they said they were interested. I gave them the numbers. They were like, okay, we'll see you then. And that was it. I tried reaching them out on Monday, Tuesday, yesterday. I reached out to them again. And then I also called them again today when they didn't show.
Okay. All right, so bottom line is you have 123, 213, 313, 325, and 328 all moving in, correct? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units out of the 7.
Mhm.
And then we've got
Good.
421 and 414. 421 is Guy Cranston. If he doesn't
421,
show,
yeah.
we'll have to find a
421,
new
no,
one.
230. Yeah, I have someone for 213, but that's not the original
Right,
person.
you're gonna move,
So,
right,
yeah,
so
yeah,
you have
switching that
120,
about.
123, 213, 313, 325, 328. We
Yeah.
have people for all of those units, leaving 421 and 414 as
And I
vacants.
have interviews. Yes, and I
Right.
have those interviews. Mhm.
Okay, so 5 of the 7 vacants are being moved into 2 of the vacants that we're still searching for tenants.
Yes. Okay, that's where we're at with the vacants
Okay,
on that. My other concern is, and moving on from vacants, was the parking. My blast was annoying. I apologize, Wendy.
That's
Little,
okay. It's just, I
but
just thought it was
but
the
you see,
machine
it was
going.
working. You see, it was working. There was
Yes, it
nobody
was.
in the visitors. Nobody was in the visitors parking. It's very clear about what it was, 2-hour parking only, and everybody was abiding by it. And it seems like I stopped the blast, and all of a sudden everybody was doing what they wanted to do again, unfortunately.
Hmm.
But I'll put the blast on again, in increments, at least once a week, at least, or twice a week, just to make reinforcement on that. But I did get Jeanette's feedback on it as well, and she's not in the meeting, I don't think. But she did say it was working well, and she was like, but then I had other tenants, like Mark. He indicated that he didn't care for it too much because he already knew the information and wanted to be removed from the blast. So you can't win them all. But yeah.
That's for
But the
sure.
parking has become a major problem. A lot of tenants have 2 parking, need to, have 2 or more cars, and they're parking on the outskirts of Millport Avenue where they shouldn't be parking, and Bernie contests to that. They are parking on the grass, and if they're parking on the grass, the town of New Canaan police is actually giving them tickets. They're getting tickets like $50, $75, $100 tickets
Mm.
for parking there. Okay. I have a tenant from, I don't know if it's so and true, but she said she received 3 different tickets and now they're planning to move out. But this is a tenant that said she was moving out last month and the month before that. So I don't know if it's so and true. I'm still waiting for the feedback on that or the letter saying that she's giving me an intent to vacate yet. She has on that one. But yeah, it's become a major problem. We did have Peggy was by as well, and with Officer Nicole, the community liaison, she was by, and we were walking around the property and things on Millport Avenue. We're reaching out to Tiger as well, to see if we could get additional spaces on the Millport Avenue side, although that side wasn't really intended for Mills and Millsport, the housing authorities parking. But we are trying to see if maybe they can make some adjustments there for us so that we do have additional parking on the outskirts, because there is none. We don't have anything to give nobody here. People are coming in asking to pay for parking and stuff like that, but we don't got it. We don't have it like that. And that means we're eliminating visitors parking altogether. That's going to be the case then. And, you know, people are parking in other people's parking. I've told numerous cars in the past week. So, you know, but people are getting it. You know, they know where to go and look for the sign. I even have it on the door there. So, you know, we're just going to see going forward how we're going to work that out with the town to see if maybe they can give us some additional parking. You know, the grass areas can be made into, you know, parking spaces.
Scott, I have a comment perhaps on an issue with parking.
Sure.
Do you think we can maybe reach out to the East Avenue medical offices again? They have all that space next to our complex that they never use for parking, and make some arrangement with them? What do you think?
I mean, look, it's worth asking. You know, and there's a hassle as to how much we're willing to manage that parking in relationship. And there's also the problem that over there, if you're looking for non-stacked parking, I'm not sure how many spots there are. There might only be like 6 to 8. Because I mean, like during construction, when we were building, we were able to get like 2 rows because everyone was
I remember that.
together. I mean, how many spots do you think are even possible right there?
I think a little bit more than that, because there were both sides to it. But I don't know, just a thought. You can't have people parking on the grass, people backing up where they can't see. I nearly got hit by somebody a couple of weeks ago. They still park there in the morning, and there were kids waiting to get on the school bus at that very spot, and that produces a danger. You have people walking their dogs, pushing their strollers and all that. And sometimes they're on the sidewalk even. And it's another issue. They can slip off and fall right into the river over there. So it's not a place they should park.
I mean, the right way under the doctors is whether or not if they were able to, you know, this would not solve a lot of issues for a lot of people. But I mean, if they wanted to pick up some extra revenue, they could, you know, issue placards and you know, tenants could pay them directly for whatever it is. And you know, then we would, and you know, we'd say we put our tow guys on it, that if the wrong people park there, swing by on their way through whenever they're with us.
I mean, there's no other place they can park. You know, there are people that have more than one car, and then they have their trucks for work that they park there, which, you know, we allowed them, we told them when they rented that there's only one space per unit.
Yeah, I mean, say, look, I'm coming off of, you know, the mischief going on up in Hartford. You know, they want to go ahead and allow as of right development with no parking. And you're like, you're out of your, you're crazy. It's insane.
I can't think of a possible solution. There's no place to do it, just like there's no place to build more housing.
Yeah, the only other thing was the cemetery area. And tenants
Can't do
have
that.
come asking about that too. Yeah, I understand that myself. That's why I said I that it would be spoke about in the next meeting, and hopefully we could come to some type of conclusion of where we can park. It wasn't a well thought out process of, you know, parking with building this housing.
It was,
Peggy, you're muted.
you know,
It's still muted.
When we met with Nicole, with Amy and I walked, there is land on the apartment side of Millport. It's down adjacent to, I think it's adjacent to the medical property, but it looks like the right of way probably extends fairly far off the road. If there were a way of putting in angled parking there, I think you could probably get 5 or 6, but you know,
That'll really narrow the street very badly.
well, it would, I think they would be off the street if you were able to open it up all the way back, because I think there's enough depth there to park a car.
Isn't that access for the fire department?
It's on the grass, so you would have to cut the road open it up like it is over on the other side, on the pond side. You'd have to widen it and pave a parking apron in there. It's not, I don't know, where are you talking about, Tim? Are you?
Kind of next to where we bought those two
driveway,
houses?
the exit driveway, or? I'm thinking more toward East Avenue, but anyway, it's, it's a nightmare, but I think you run into issues if we say there's one parking place per unit. There's only so much that I think as a housing authority, you want to get into allowing people to have, for us to be managing them having more than one car per unit. And, the indemnification that would be required for the medical group to have cars parked over there that, people with their cars and
Yeah.
tripping and twisting ankles and things like that over there on basically a dirt lot. It's a mess. But I don't know how much we can, as a housing authority, put our imprint on deciding that this is the overflow housing, this is the overflow parking for you.
Scott may remember when we developed phase 1, we had one problem that was introduced. And the width of the parking spaces had to be bigger than we first planned. So that meant less parking spaces. When we built phase 2, because of bedrock situations, we couldn't build that building as forward as we wanted to. There was a possibility of having parking behind building 2. So there were a lot of issues that were met while developing this, but it was all thought that maybe you can have more than one car for some people, but it didn't seem to work out that way.
It's like, look, it was the original project was actually for 120 some odd units with 0.8 per unit. And luckily that was, again, I would have stopped Chuck if P&Z didn't. But it came through under the 1.1. And I mean, again, we are what we are. And it stinks.
It's just, they're just complaining a lot, and even with the cars parked, but those, that they are parking, they're coming in complaining, oh, she smacked my door, then they're having fights with each other. It's like, it's an ongoing stance with this parking.
And
it's
unfortunately, it's unsolvable.
it's kind of a stab in the dark here, but there is a path and then kind of a makeshift path that goes around the pond and up to Canaan Parish. Is there any, I'm looking at it right now on Google Maps and it's the old Canaan Parish that's there. I'm trying to picture if there's any area behind the parking area that's down closer to the pond that could be made into parking where folks could you could formalize a path and they could walk back and forth between there. At least you control some of that land.
It's on Canaan Parish property.
Yeah, so if you think about the two buildings and back where the sport court is back in that area. People walk down the hill there and then they walk around the pond and out to Millport Avenue. And there's an actual formal path around the pond, but there isn't a formal path from the pond up to Canaan Parish. But that whole area back in there, I don't know if that's.
Wouldn't that impede upon Avalon property?
I don't know.
No, there's an easement. No, there's a pedestrian easement through there, but it's very steep.
Yeah.
It just drops off there, very steeply, and there's no access from Route 123 to drive a car in to park it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The only other thought I had was the upper parking lot. As you come up the hill, the squarish parking lot to the right, you could put a deck or two of parking garage there if you could raise the funds to build it.
That
And it
might
would-
be, the
How
prefab
about
ones are not.
getting valet parking?
Well, it's it gives you a chance to stack, a deck or two of parking there with a prefab concrete structure. It would not be inexpensive, but it would be a potential solution. For adding parking, that is. Or you just simply stick to your guns and say, listen, it's one space per unit. If you have more than one car, you have to arrange for parking elsewhere.
Or if we create more space, they would have to pay for it if it's on our property.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no good place on our property. I mean, in theory, you
Yeah.
can get all of the rest of the green space and somehow sneak something in, but I mean, there's not, you know, we're talking 2 or 3 cars.
Yeah,
You're right.
Unless again, let's protect things, which is a whole nother animal.
yeah, I think looking at the map here, the best solution is that parking area that's up against the property line, the northern property line at the doctor's office area. That's the only potential spot. Aside from on Millport Avenue, expanding that 45-degree angle parking.
All right, well, I got a text into Tiger. See what creativity he can come up with. You know, people can get parking passes up in the middle of town. If you're overnight. Not convenient, but it's again, not a whole lot of things out there.
Would they ever consider making Millport one way?
And do street.
That leg of
and-
it?
And do street parking, yeah.
Mhm.
That's what I was just thinking about, street parking, but then you'd have to reconfigure that whole sidewalk and all those retaining walls. That becomes a big project, but making it one way would give you the opportunity for that, yeah.
And it's just that one stretch, that then it's not like you can't
It's
get out.
one
It's
way
not
on
like
the
it's a
other.
long stretch. Yeah.
It's one way on the other side of Lakewood.
It is.
I'll ask. It's I mean, a hassle under that though is that then like to get into Millport, you got to come in from East Avenue, period. You know, it takes Lakeview out of like the inbound side.
Which way is it one way when it's south of Lakeview? Is it one way heading south or one way heading north?
South.
South away from the building.
Right to Main Avenue.
Is there a
I mean, I
town
think-
is there a town facility over on Lakeview that borders the cemetery? Before
Yeah,
you get to the entrance down to the landfill? They use it for staging and
Yes, it looks like it.
there's
But
public
isn't
works.
that owned by the
over there.
Cemetery Association and they just give us permission to use that for staging?
And they need
But
that.
they,
They're using it now for the water project. That's the cemetery people.
And it's hard to get
Cemetery,
there.
yeah.
People are dying to get in there.
That's my joke.
All right, why don't we, I don't know, I mean, I know for my own personal schedule, I'm a little bit tied up where. I mean, I suppose I could kind of reach out to the doctors, but I don't have any real follow-up time.
One way, that's a great solution.
I don't even know what,
I don't know how you go about convincing them of it, but that would be a solution.
I'm sure they have to do traffic studies, but I mean, Tiger certainly knows how to do that. And it's not a state road, so it should be easier.
That's easy.
I mean, interestingly, I mean, the doctors would be somebody who would actually be a problem with that.
It looks like their entrance is off of East Avenue.
Yeah. East Avenue is
they
a
have-
state road, though.
They have access to Millport.
Yeah, they do have access, but it looks like their primary is off of East.
Yeah.
You've got parking, parallel parking along the pond already.
There's angle parking and there's also parallel
Yeah.
parking. And there is room on the apartment side for probably 6 or 7 cars. If you're to widen the road and expand an apron up to
Yeah,
the
how many
retaining
cars
wall.
are parked there now, Peggy? Do you know? I think there are about 6 or 7 cars parked there now, just the way it is.
Not on the side of the apartments.
Yeah, but
They're
are
like
you-
three, consistently, there are about 3 or 4 that are parked on the grass that keep getting ticketed.
Yeah, that's true. But
But
what
the
your
others are all,
suggestion,
the others are all parked along the pond in the parent, but they're taking up all the parking spaces.
no, your
along the
suggestion is
pond.
good we can get more cars in there if we had, 45-degree angle parking. But I don't know how much of that property really belongs to the medical offices and what problems we'd have in having that expanded, but the town would know that.
Well, they would know where the right of way is. I mean, the power poles are set way back from the road, which usually indicates that it could be an old property line, usually probably with that old stone wall. And it may
Mhm.
not have ever been changed, so it may still be right of way. Have to look,
If
to
if
look
I
at
were
the
the
plot.
doctors, I don't know if I'd like this now that I'm thinking about it. If they
Right.
ever intend to sell that property for redevelopment, they may want to keep all their options open.
Yeah, I mean, we won't be able to buy a chunk. I mean, either we're able to buy the whole thing, which we need a lot of help to do, or we won't be able to buy a chunk. And the only thing would be whether or not with that parking area, and again, it's hard to tell from the aerial map. I mean, maybe 6 to 8 spots. And it'd be one of those things of like, look, would you wanna, lease the spaces to tenants? I mean, we're not gonna, in theory, we could manage it for them if they were up for doing that, and then they just get one check and we just end up as part of our enforcement. Just have our tow truck guy go through, and if the people have paid the extra 100 or $125 a month or whatever it is that worthwhile or not? And I have no idea to the doctors whether or not that would be worthwhile or not.
I'm gonna share my screen for just one sec here. Let me see if I can do that effectively. Here we go, share screen. Can you see this parking now?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good shot of that.
So yeah, that's what people are doing. So I mean, that, you see what's there, there's all the 45-degree, and these are all the folks that are getting ticketed. So I mean, you can see there's room for it because they're doing it. And there's room that goes all the way down to the corner.
well, that could add 10 spaces, I bet.
I bet the issue comes up that that's too close to the pond.
Yeah, there's wetlands issues perhaps there.
Well, maybe,
Sure.
well, shoot, that's where the river is.
Yep.
Yeah, 'cause the pond's done. And the river does, I'm looking at the aerial, and it looks like the river does come closer, but it still doesn't look close.
Yeah, it's pretty
Rick-
close there. You don't see it because of the trees. That's the 5 Mile River.
Yeah. Rick, can you look at the other side? Can you look down the road a bit?
This way?
Yeah, toward East Avenue on the other side. Like go down a little bit further. I mean, it's a little bit further walk, but it's, I don't know how far you can get.
Wow.
So here's where the parking starts up again. But see how wide it is over here on the left?
Over here?
There and up further. Let's see where those cars are parked parallel. They could go in angled.
Oh, yeah.
It's fairly wide back there.
It is.
Now it's like a great idea if it can work out.
Well, I'm
See how
Yeah,
far,
I mean-
I'll
see how
do
far the poles are set back? So that's what I was looking at. Maybe that
Yeah.
would work.
Yeah. And then
Because
this
I don't
is-
think it's 30 cars that need to park there, though if the parking is there, they'll come. But
Right,
there- you could certainly
exactly.
fit a lot of cars in that medical lot, but I don't think they'd go for it.
Yeah, it's
what-
too bad because that's a perfect lot right there.
Yep. But again,
Yes.
you've got some space here that's fairly, it's fairly wide.
Oh, boy.
So now I see there were 2 cars there. You can probably get 6 or 7 as you suggested.
Well, if you turned them doing angled parking,
Yeah,
you'd
if
be
you
able to
did a
fit even more.
45, yeah.
All right, so basically, I'm gonna make a plea to the most creative person in Connecticut and probably in Connecticut state government, Tiger Man.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
where
Tell him
there
to
is-
get tell him to get Gino out there. He'll figure out a way to pave it. So,
Yeah, if there's a way to do it, he'll figure it out, so.
he and Peter.
Man,
Okay,
That takes care of part of the problem. We'll still have more people with, cars and their trucks and all that stuff.
yeah, I mean, at a certain point, you just have to cut it off and say.
All right,
Yeah,
that's a big concession. If we can do that, that's a big improvement.
yeah,
and also figuring out whether or not it's like, look, can the town actually go ahead and do permits there? And, look, we're not trying to punish anybody, but if you do permits at like 25 to 50 bucks a month, that can end up covering that and allow them to park there overnight. So like during the winter, there's, that stays useful and right.
Mhm.
It's gonna be a pain in the neck. And unfortunately, we're gonna have to get, we'll just have to be ready that we're gonna be stuck possibly losing a bunch of tenants. I mean, that's the and also I would say that for Westmount, people can get parking permits up in town, like up at the library lot and, some other places in the center school parking lot. And that might be the only way that they can get around some of this. And it's not convenient. They're gonna have to shuttle their cars, but at least that's something.
There are very few. There are two or three of the Gulf Station things, and the library has dibs on 76 spots. So that's what they're leasing, and that's not over. And then the rest is not overnight, and the rest that's available would be on the side near South Avenue, where the construction fencing is, and then in the new in-out cutout off of South Avenue. So that's all that's remaining of the center school lot. But everything on the side coming into the driveway at center school to the left and to the bushes at the back end is all library now, except for the 3 or 4 overnight tow truck things. So that's where that's standing
Yep.
at the moment. I mean, the library's leasing the lot yearly, I think.
Right.
And they'll reinvestigate once the library's open after a year. They'll investigate the need there. But I think there's no intention other than the tow trucks to have overnight parking.
Yeah.
That's a Kevin thing, probably.
No, it'll be a bunch of stuff we're asking, so we'll see what we can do. Okay, let's go ahead and move on at this point. I don't think we can do a lot more tonight.
yeah.
So,
Hey guys, it's Annie. If we're moving on, I have another request.
Okay.
We would like to open up some Home Depot credit charge accounts.
Yep.
Because what we're hitting a wall up against is the debit cards. There's a limit, and sometimes we need to get supplies to do things which exceed that limit. And also Gunnar has to say what he wants, then I have to go in and order it, and then I have to send him a message when it's ready. It'd be a lot easier if we had a charge account, but the hurdle that I'm facing is they are looking for a guarantor for the accounts. So I was wondering if I could send over the link for the application and have you guys take a look at it, and if you'd be willing to open up accounts for each of the buildings for Home Depot. The other way that we were doing it too is Rings End, and again, doing a charge account, and we could set those up, but again, hitting the wall with the limit. So we keep on hitting walls with iToro, we'll only do it by debit or credit card. Rings End was only by our debit. And again, with Home Depot, and when we're trying to get things moving, it's just a little bit difficult. So
Don't we
just
have an
some
account with
feedback on that.
Lowe's? And didn't we open up an account with Lowe's some time ago?
not with us, that we were
No, I thought
using
Rick
our.
wanted to open it and asked us about it. Remember, Rick?
Yeah, it's the same issue, the guarantor issue. So what we were thinking was that if we opened accounts under the names of Mill, Phase 1, Phase 2, and then had the housing authority entity be the guarantor, you've got a separate entity, which is what they're looking for to guarantee the accounts. And then that would remove the limitation of the spending limit that's placed on the debit cards.
That's a
And
good idea.
How much is the, I mean, what sort of limits would you guys be comfortable with?
Well, the spending limit on the debit cards, I think it's like $1,500.
That's it.
Yeah, or maybe 2,000. It's low. So, when we go to buy appliances or supplies for turnover, or whatever it might be, we run into that pretty easily. So, I think if we had a credit account of, say, 5,000 each for Mill, Phase 1, Phase 2, that would be more than enough. It doesn't need to be a large credit account. It just needs to be more than what we have currently.
Does it make sense to have 3 different accounts for each project, or is
Well,
that the best way to keep accounting while we still have 3 separate sets of books?
it's the easiest way to keep the accounting. So when the guys buy, they know they're buying for a unit in Phase 1, for example. So they would put it on the Phase 1 account. We get a bill, it says Phase 1, we put it in the right place. Whereas if it was a single bill, they go in, they buy it, then we have to decipher where it was for. And then let's say you bought stuff for Mill and Phase 1 in the same trip, then we have to take that bill and split it out and assign it to each property. So it just becomes more cumbersome.
Okay.
I would be fine with that, and I think that ends up opening up enough, yeah, I don't think there's over a whole ton of risk, and I think that would work out okay.
Yeah, no.
And the other way, just as safeguard too, we can also do the type of account where each person has their own card. So like Gunnar would have a card, Aziz would have a card. I think, if Amy or Anna, we could pick one just in case if they needed to go pick up something. So that it's tied to a person too, just for another level of control. Just throwing that out there as well.
I think, I would urge that we go ahead and let you guys work under the audit trail of the stuff and just make sure that you have the controls in place that that they're used well and we know where the money's going, we don't get ripped off.
Okay.
Any commissioners have questions or thoughts or stuff they want to bring
No,
up?
No,
that
no, I'm
sounds-
all for that.
Yeah, that sounds what they need to have.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
All right. I think I'm just looking at the report. The rest of it is kind of basic stuff. If you had any questions, we could answer them, but rather than go through line by line, in the interest of time.
I think the one question that, sorry, is we went through all of that, the rental stuff and the lease up. So where did we end up? I mean, at the end of this, how many units are still vacant?
Yeah, so we end up with 7 vacant currently, 5 being moved into, and 2 remaining vacant.
Okay. Yep, and meanwhile, we still have a flow going through, people are asking, and it's just trying to find the right people at the right time with the right qualifications.
Correct.
Okay,
Are there any folks that have applied at Canaan Parish that didn't meet the tax credit income limits that might be feasible to go to Millport?
Not really, because it's effectively the same thing. The max and min are basically the same. The rent's a little bit lower at Millport, but other than that, it's the same requirements.
Okay.
And the other thing is people go and they see Canaan Parish is brand new, beautiful, and then they go and look at Millport and they say, "Oh, you're trying to bait and switch me." It's like, no, we're just trying to get you a unit is all.
all right, and out of curiosity, I should have paid closer attention at the last meeting, and where are we as far as Canaan Parish for lease up?
We have of the 40 remaining units, 18 are leased 3 more moving in the next week, which gets us to 21, and then Peggy, what did Chandrita say about the remaining?
Shan's on this
19.
call, so.
Oh, she
Hi.
is? Okay, there she is. Hey, Shan.
Hi, how are you? We have 18 already rented. We're just not renting one of the units, which is 101. That is the one that had the flood, and the rest of the remaining units are on the 3rd and the 4th floor. So we're basically leased up with the 1st and 2nd floor, except for unit 102.
And, sorry, and then the flow of everyone inside there, we're getting, and again, forgive me for not fully understanding on this one. So is it looking like we're leasing up very soon and there's lots of people and we'll have a waiting list, or are we gonna fall short on some stuff?
I think we'll probably be leased up by like no later than April 1st, because we're still going through applications now.
Yeah,
We're still getting, we didn't get as much as we did before when we had a lot of people applying that didn't qualify. Now I guess that the word is out, you have to make the income, so we're getting more qualified people. Moreover than anything, we get a lot of people that make too much money now. Versus before, we had a lot of people that didn't make the income at all.
Right.
So, hey, Shan, let me just ask that question again, because I want to make sure you didn't misspeak there. April 1st is a month from now, and you've got 20 vacancies there. You're not, are you saying you think you can get those 20 vacancies filled in the next 30 days?
We're probably between April 15th and April 30th. So we said
Okay.
the month of April,
So
So
60
we're talking
days.
May.
yeah.
Right.
Because we have some people that applied, they have Section 8, and that's what I mentioned before in the call, they have to wait. Their landlord has already been paid as of today, so they won't be able to move until like April 1st, depending on their inspection. So some of them are April 1st and some of them are April 15th.
Okay. Oh, anyway, I fully recognize it's an aggressive move-in schedule to get this many people processed through an affordable housing
It's a lot.
in such a short time. So that's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, what was left on our reports was the work order report, which is not that interesting. So unless you have a question about it.
I think there's some things we can deal with in executive session on some of the other reports.
Okay.
I do want to give an update on the signage. Anna
yes.
has been, and Anna and Amy have been great. Amy walked with me. She's been walking in the rain and the sleet and everything else with me out there. I have walked with one signage person. I've got an appointment on Monday and probably another one on Tuesday to go to with the other 2 contractors, coming up with some ideas on wayfaring signage. And there is a need as well for signage inside. Talking to the police officer, Nicole was saying that, you know, a lot of times they get in and we have the floor plan sitting there, but not really where the units are and which, you know, how to go upstairs to go to which units and this type of thing. So we'll look at that as well. But that may be something that we can do internally, or be simply just have them print out something and not have to worry about some kind of external sign. But hopefully I'll have something in the next, for the next meeting to present. But I would hope to have something for tonight, but contractors are contractors and they're hard to get a hold of sometimes. So, but I'm hoping that we have a plan for that. Is there any kind of, is there a color or motif or logo or anything that we have for Millport that we're looking at that I should tell them to focus on? As a newbie, I mean, I look around and go, well, there's like lots of different signs, but I don't see anything
We don't
consistent.
have a logo. Maybe we should have a logo designed.
Well, we can do something simple. I don't think we're going to spend a lot of money for a graphic designer to do that.
No,
You do the graphic designer contest website or whatever. I mean, you can get a logo for under $100.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, there are plenty of stock images that can be used and modified. I have access to a lot of those things.
Well, I
When
mean,
I had my
I've-
web design company, we used a lot of that.
well,
Yeah, I
there's
could
there's the websites under the shared work things you can put out there. I got $25 to do a logo. Who wants to do it? And people will do we'll take in 6 people and choose from those. But I don't know if we fully need a logo, but it probably actually would not be a horrible thing to have.
Yeah, let's, I mean, even if just, I'm sort of saying we're calling it Millport Apartments on the main entrance sign. And putting the full accurate address numbers on on the street entrance. And then signifying within the site, sort of using the same color, font, whatever, sort of that those are identifiers as where you're supposed to go. And this is where these buildings are, and this is where this is, and putting identifiers on each one of the buildings that are reflective and readily visible to any kind of emergency vehicle that would come in. So that's.
So in other
that's
words, we're not going to
thinking.
say Mill Apartments and Millport, or just Millport?
I'm just gonna say, I think just Millport Apartments, because Mill Apartments only means something to people who are inside. Because essentially the address is 41 building 1.
Right.
You know,
It's 41
so-
Millport. Everything is an address of Millport Avenue.
it's by the
Okay.
number. And so I think if you put Millport Apartments and then whatever the numbers are, it's like 33 to 861 or whatever it is, that range, so that anything in that range, you go into that driveway and then you'll figure out where to go based on the signage once you're inside.
I've been dealing with this for
Except the
15
mill-
years and I still don't get it, so I agree.
Yeah.
I still-
What's that,
But
Wendy?
mill people do have addresses that
They have,
they've been
it's
using.
41 Millport Avenue. It doesn't say Mill Apartments on their address.
Oh.
It says 41 Millport Avenue, building like apartment 1G or whatever. Right?
Okay. Yeah, I guess so, but
Right.
some people, I think my checkbooks or something are addressed to, oh, no, they're not. I have a post office box. But, I have 41 Mill Apartment 60 or something.
Does it say 41 Mill? Is that your mailing address, is 41 Mill?
I think so, but
Should be
Because-
Millport by post office standards.
yeah, I'm not
Because-
sure because I do have a post office box where I get. most
Okay,
of
check
my
on that
stuff,
before you
so-
make a comment.
Yeah, because I
Yeah,
think that, what
but-
they look at, people say, I live at 41 Millport, building 2, and build apartment 2F or whatever it is.
Yeah,
So we want to have the buildings marked as, building 1, building 2, building 3, up to building 9. And then identifying A through, in some cases, A through H on the buildings is which door it is and which area it is that you have to go to find those
Yeah.
apartments.
but
so,
the confusing part is that there are 9 buildings that are, or
Correct.
have been Mill. And then the apartment buildings are the Mill Port, and that's, down to 33 and 35, so.
But,
I don't know.
but again,
I'm kind of afraid of losing the mill in part of the sign out front. But
because I think it's an identifier for people who are internal, not to people looking for somebody who's coming in.
yeah, but the only thing is the only number that's right on the road right now is the 41, and none of the other stuff.
Right, well, that will
Makes
be
any
corrected.
sense.
That,
Right.
those are going away. Those are going away.
Yeah, but then you're
So-
limited. Yeah, I'm just worried about losing the mill part.
Right, well, I
where
wouldn't
there's 9
worry about
buildings.
that so much as long as, do you live in Mill?
Yeah.
Okay, so, I think it's an internal, don't take it strong. I think it's an internal prestige thing. If you live in Mill, I don't live in Millport, I live in Mill. And
Well, it's not really.
internally,
Yeah.
but internally, that's what you say. But coming in from the street, I don't know what Mill Apartments are. I know what 41 Millport is, and that's that's how you.
But not really,
count.
because none of the mill apartments are numbered, and the only things that are numbered are way down the parking lots in both areas, and
Right,
that's
well, that's gonna,
stuff that's
Wendy,
not
that's
on
gonna,
the sign. Yeah.
Right,
that's
that's
what's
just-
gonna
You're
change. but
working
that's
on
gonna
it,
change.
so
That's what's
okay.
gonna change. I mean, they'll say
Yeah.
41, building 1, 40, it'll say 41-1, 41-2,
Mhm.
41-3.
yeah.
So that you'll know it's 41 Millport, building 1, 2, 3, 4, up through 9.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, the most important thing is once somebody comes and knows where you live, they know where you live. But
Yeah.
a fireman coming in to try to give you CPR doesn't know what Mill Apartments is.
Right.
Right.
Needs to know that you're 41 Millport and you're in a, you're in a 41 building 3G or whatever you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And once somebody knows where you are, they're not going to be looking for your street number there, but somebody looking for you needs to be able to find you.
But the whole problem for years has been that with the phase 1 and phase 2, those aren't even noticed on the sign. So you're getting the sign on the road
Right.
fixed.
Right. That's
So at
that's
least
what I'm
it
trying
will
to do is,
indicate, because
so we'll
most of
have
more of the people are on the phase 1 and phase 2 are internal information, but
Right. Right.
fire and police and delivery things have no clue. So,
right, exactly.
anyway.
And that's where, and so that's what
Yeah.
I'm trying to fix by making one cohesive signage program for the entire complex.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yay.
since there's only one entrance, I think it's nice to have a title if you want to call it
Yeah.
something else,
No,
Millport
it's
Acres or something. But
no, it's just
but-
it's not a title thing, but like Mill looks different than the apartments do. So that's
Right.
the only distinguishing thing we have to indicate that we're 41 at the moment.
Right, and you will
Is that-
have 41 on the building. Yep.
That's going to be lovely.
Yep.
Yep. And
So that's-
somehow at the street have everyone else identified. And then
Anybody
hopefully
between
within-
33 and 61 or whatever it is, you go in this driveway,
Mm-hmm.
and then once you get
And-
there, they'll know, and they'll have signs for like whether you're 41 building 8 and 9 up there on the hill or 5, 6, 7 over here and 1 through 4 over there. So those will all be, people will be able to find you.
Mhm.
Okay?
All right.
Good.
Thank you, Peggy, for handling that. And again, if there's
Yeah.
anything you want to sense test on, Bernie's right there or let
Yeah.
any of us know, and we'll try to bounce it off. And signage is one of the hardest things to figure out what really makes sense to everybody. It's brutal. So thank you again for doing this.
Well, I think the key is who's lost whenever they go in the complex? Mike? I'll take you over there and take you to the sign. Okay, Tim, we'll go over there. We'll do a walkthrough. Like once we sort of put up the straw man and say, okay, can you find this building? And I think
That's
that's
fine.
gonna be the test,
I'll wear my fireman's hat.
Okay.
And then bring
We
Bernie,
could do,
and bring
we can do an
Bernie,
egg hunt
so
in a
that
few
it's not
weeks.
going to confuse everyone else who lives there.
There were times I was lucky I was outside when the EMT were coming and they couldn't find a unit. And I was able to point them in the right direction.
Yep. Okay, anything else in public session? Very well, do we have a motion to move to executive session?
I make the motion.
Second,
Favor? Aye.
aye.
Right,
Aye.
thank you, Wendy.
All right. Thank you very much. And thank you, Peggy. Good luck.
Thank
And
you.
the parking.
Say a
Good luck
prayer
to
for me.
everyone. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So we'll stop recording.
Just a moment. Okay.
All right, we're back in session. It's public session at 6:58. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the
I
motion.
move. Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Good
Appreciate
night,
it.
All right,
folks.
thanks, Scott.
Not all.
So, thanks.
Cheers.
Good night.
Good night.